Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by the East Baton Rouge Parish School System, inspiring humanity through transformational learning in the classroom and community. Initiatives like Pathways to Bright Futures allow students to graduate high school with an associate degree or an industry-based credential, along with their high school diploma. More information at ebrschools.org.
From Mansur's on the Boulevard, we're out to lunch with Stephanie Regal. It's business, Baton Rouge style.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Regal. Welcome to Out to Lunch. The lemonade stand has become a sort of iconic institution in the American narrative. The kid on the side of the road peddling lemonade from a pitcher, a way to make a little extra change and stave off summer boredom while also learning a thing or two about the fundamentals of entrepreneurship. But a lemonade stand can be so much more. Not only a teaching tool, but a way to help young people with disabilities learn that they can succeed at entrepreneurship. Joining me to discuss this is Sherilyn Hayward, co-owner of Leroy's Lip Smackin' Lemonade, an enterprise she and her husband Dan started with their son Leroy in 2012 when he was just 6 years old and participating in Lemonade Day Louisiana, an annual event that teaches children about entrepreneurship. The homegrown lemonade stand has expanded over the years to festivals and pop-up locations, and today is sold in 40 grocery stores around Baton Rouge and in Tiger Stadium. But that's not what makes this business so unique. Rather, it's that Leroy is a special needs kid, and as Sherilyn will tell you, the real mission of their business is to teach him that there are no limits in life except the ones you put on themselves. The company employs young people with disabilities, and it also is helping Children's Hospital by donating a portion of proceeds from every sale to the institution. Sherilyn, it's a great story and a great mission. Thank you all so much for joining me on Out to Lunch.
Thank you for having us.
With me and Sherilyn at the table is Kevin Whalen, who didn't sell lemonade as a kid, but is now the owner of a business that does sell beverages, Rally Cap Brewery, a Baton Rouge-based microbrewery that Kevin founded in 2017 with his friend and business partner, Jeremy Brown. In the years since, the business has grown to include a baseball-themed tap room, which opened in 2019, right before the COVID pandemic, and features several different brews that vary by season and are made right here at Rally Cap's brewing facility in the Industriplex area. Kevin is a self-taught brewmeister who has had a passion for brewing for more than a decade and teamed up with his friend Jeremy, whom he met at business school in Duke University because they both wanted to own their own business. Along the way, though, he has had a varied and interesting career. He worked for the Montreal Expos as well as minor league clubs and was assistant athletic director at Lamar University in Texas. And then he served as vice president of casino operations at L'Auberge before Rally Cap Brewing. So Kevin brings a wealth of entrepreneur and athletic experience. Thanks so much for being here
Thanks for
today
having me,
on
Stephanie.
Out to
It's
Lunch.
great.
Well, Sherilyn, let's start with the lemonade business. Social enterprise, I mean, this is a way to give back and also a mission that is more than just about making money.
Yes, it is. Money is just a byproduct, but our whole thing is that we were trying to find something that Leroy could do because he is on the spectrum. And when we did a lemonade stand in 2012, we realized Leroy really liked the interaction, and it was real easy for him to serve a glass of lemonade and say, "Thank you, you're welcome." And we did it again and the next year, and he loved it. And most of all to us, he liked taking his money to Children's Hospital. And I was like, this is a great way to teach him how to give back, build some character in him. And he loved it. I really believed he liked giving the money more than he liked selling the lemonade.
And he really understood what he was doing at 6 years old?
Yes, he understood that he had lemonade to sell, and he understood at the end of every stand, he was going to take some money to the Children's Hospital and take all those pictures with those nurses.
That's great. That's really great. And so it has grown over the years.
Yes. We decided to make it an official business in 2015 when we won a tasting contest for Lemonade Day, Southeast Louisiana Lemonade Day. We got first place. And we also were named Entrepreneur of the Year, Leroy. for Lemonade Day, and he was given Entrepreneur of the Year by the LSU Stevenson Entrepreneurship Institute. And that was because that year in 2015, we sold more lemonade and donated more money than any other lemonade stand in Louisiana. And we decided then, you know what, let's make this a business, because
Yeah.
everybody was telling us, there were some chefs, and they were telling us, y'all have a great product, y'all got to do something with it. And we said, you know what, this could be something that could really help Leroy and inspire other children and parents like Leroy that have a special need to don't give up on those kids.
Sure. Well, really interesting story, and I want to find out more about how you have made lemonade taste so good. Not that it ever tastes bad, but like what's the secret sauce there? But Kevin, want to bring you into the discussion because you are a self-taught brewmeister, and
Right.
that is no small thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people experiment at home, but I mean to make it really good.
Yeah, I dove into it. God, this was back 2010. You know, I had a propane setup out on my balcony in my apartment, and they probably would have killed me or evicted me if they knew it was there. But just, you know, with some hobbies, you get obsessed, and that's what happened. A hobby became an obsession, and I got every little bell and whistle to try and make my beer taste better. And over time, people really started liking it. You know,
And what was your first brew? What's
I-
sort of your specialty?
Yeah, I brewed mostly IPAs. So back in the day, then those were kind of bitter beers, and
Yep.
that's what was in vogue. And over time, that's evolved. And before I opened the brewery, I kind of honed in on one style of beer, which was a hazy pale ale, which became our flagship beer today, which is First Pitch.
Excellent.
So that was the brew I perfected late in the game as a home brewer to think about opening the brewery.
And I want to talk about the tap room, but before that, give us just a sense of like how widespread your distribution is. Are you only in the tap room? Are you in restaurants locally, bars, grocery stores?
So our
package?
distribution has picked up pretty good. So we distribute essentially through all of southern Louisiana, from basically I-10 from the Texas border all the way to Slidell, and up the I-12 corridor, and then we extend now into southern Mississippi. So we're on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, basically south of I-10.
Excellent.
So yeah, if you're near I-10, then you can get our beer at grocery stores, restaurants, bars. You know, you'll find us in all the Rouses, Calandros, Alexanders, you name it, Albertsons, Winn-Dixie. So we're definitely growing that distribution side of the business.
And it's all done from your facility on Industrialplex,
Absolutely.
where you do the brewing
Right.
and the bottling, packaging, distribution, the whole thing.
Everything happens right there. So I was the original head brewer, started brewing myself, and then over time trained one of our team members, Diana, and she's now the brewer. She does all the brewing. It's hard work, but she does a fantastic job and has kept up a high standard of quality. I think that's one of the things that we feel differentiates us, that we make really great beer, and it's local. So we're really happy with how the beer has progressed and how our brewer does as well.
All right. Well, we're going to come back to that. But Sherilyn, speaking of really great tasting, so your lemonade, Leroy's Lip Smack and lemonade, it's all natural,
It's all natural. It's what lemonade's supposed to be.
which is fresh lemon.
That's right. It's fresh lemons,
And-
water, sugar.
Okay, so those are the three main ingredients, and how were y'all able to just, I guess, perfect that ratio to make it better than the average lemonade?
Well, it actually started, Leroy determined the taste, because on Lemonade Day, we said, you know what, kids always tell you the truth, so let's make us some lemonade. And we would make lemonade. It took us 2 weeks
Okay.
to actually get a taste, and Leroy would taste and then he'd run off. But when we got to the one we have now, he started just smacking his lips and he kept saying more. And I was like, okay, let us taste it, because we always taste it after Leroy. And when I tasted it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really good. Then Dad was like, you smacking your lips. And that's when Dad said, Leroy's Lip Smacking Lemonade. And it's been the same ever since.
That's excellent. So you now are also in grocery stores and also Tiger Stadium, which is a huge concession.
Yes, we are in all the Rouses here locally. We're in the Calvins, the Alexanders, Calandros, High Neighbors, Scenic Markets. We're in pretty much all of the locals. We have 5 stands in Tiger Stadium. We service Alex Box. We do the PMAC for basketball, gymnastics. And we do a lot of the festivals, the Blues Fest. We just do a lot of the local festivals. So we are expanding. Our growth plan, of course, is to this year go into Mississippi.
Wow.
Yes, and then further out into New Orleans, just catch all of Louisiana.
And how many people do you have working with you? How many employees?
In our facility, we have 8.
Wow.
And when season starts for football, we have 14.
Okay. So
Yes.
that's quite a good number.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you're scaling up.
Yes.
Kevin, how big is your company now? How many employees?
So we're
do you-
7 employees. And really 3 folks who, or 4 that are pretty much full-time in production, running the tap room and kind of keeping the day-to-day humming. And then we
Yeah.
have folks who come in and bartend for us as well in the tap room.
So the baseball theme.
Yeah.
And baseball was your other passion besides
Yes.
beer. And you
Yes.
actually worked as a baseball coach.
Yeah, well, so I was in the front office. I was a general manager of a couple of minor league teams in the Montreal Expos system, which, and that means you're handling the ticket sales, the ushers, the marketing, and team travel, things like that. All the things that are needed to keep the games going.
Right.
And it, baseball I just loved growing up and really wanted to get into it as a profession. And, over time, just things kind of evolved, and I ended up in kind of 3, I guess, unique professions between baseball, casinos, and
now-
beer. Yeah.
And that makes you a fun guy because
Well,
they're all fun.
Some might say that. I don't know if everyone would agree, but
But tell me this though. I mean, how important is the baseball theme to the brewery? Is it just a marketing thing, sort of, to get people into the tap room, sports bar, or?
it's probably secondary. It's a good hook for us, for people, right? Part of when we designed it was that it would be cool to have a sports bar / brewery for a tap room. So that was always, that's how we can get people in the door. So we've got, 10 big screen TVs. So as far as the experience goes, when you walk into the tap room, we've got an overhang over part of our sitting area, which is basically painted like the stitches on a baseball. It is unmistakable baseball when you walk in. So, and that appeals to people, certainly. But that is not enough to run a business with, right?
Right.
So in the end, the most important thing is making beer that people enjoy and that the masses are going to enjoy. It can't just be this niche of, we make stouts or we make, it's people that walk into a grocery store who maybe haven't had craft beer will grab it off the shelf.
And
enjoy it.
obviously you have different varieties that vary by season.
Yeah.
Do you have certain ones that are steady all year round? I mean,
We have 2 beers that we serve year-round. The first one I mentioned called
The hazy.
First Pitch, which is the Hazy Pale Ale. And the second one is a really unique beer. It's called Wendy Peppercorn. So Wendy Peppercorn was the lifeguard in the Sandlot movie.
Okay.
Okay, so, and it's a golden milk stout, so it's a very unique beer. So it's a
Nice.
stout, but it looks like a blonde ale. So we get the roasty flavors from adding coffee and chocolate and vanilla to the beer instead of dark grains.
Wow.
So people look at it, they don't expect it to taste like it does. They drink it, and it's very coffee flavored and roasty flavored.
rich.
And rich, yeah.
High in alcohol content?
Not too bad. It's 5.5%. So
Okay,
it's
not
a
bad
beer
at
you
all.
can drink and it's not so rich that you can't drink it in the summer, right? It's I think the color helps with that and the mouthfeel. So those are the 2 beers that we found. That one actually just became a hit kind of virally. So we made a small batch and it sold out quick. We made a big batch and it sold out quick. And I started getting lots of phone calls, like, when are you gonna make Wendy again? When are you gonna make Wendy again? And so it's like, all right, people have spoken. So we didn't expect it. It was a very different beer than we had made, and but it just kind of became a hit.
You're listening to Out to Lunch. I'm Stephanie Regal. I'm talking to Kevin Whalen of Rally Cat Brewing and Sherilyn Hayward of Leroy's Lip Smackin' Lemonade. Sherilyn, so y'all come up with this great lemonade recipe, and Leroy's all into it, and this is working. How did you scale up? Because it's one thing to do it on a small scale at the lemonade day type of level, and then to all of a sudden go to a full-fledged company.
Yes, from a lemonade stand, what we started doing is we realized people started calling us saying, "Where's y'all lemonade stand?" And I would be like, "It's not lemonade day."
Yeah.
But then I said, you know what? Let's maybe try to get this in grocery stores. Everybody's telling us, we need to do something with it. And we found a gallon container, got some labels, and I just went around to the grocery stores. Our first one was Calandro's on Perkins Road. When I walked in there and tried to tell them about giving us a chance, they actually said, "We were waiting for y'all to come in here. We've been hearing about y'all at Tiger Stadium." I was like, oh my gosh, that was easier than I thought. And so I just started going around to the local stores. We started out with 8 stores, and we would only take them gallons. That's all we
Okay.
knew. Because we didn't have a lot of money to do this. And from the gallons, the stores would go, "Wait, you need to send us more, send us more." And I was like, "Okay, you send you more." And so then Tiger Stadium, we had one stand when we started. Every year, Tiger Stadium wanted additional stands.
That's
so
great.
we started making the lemonade stands. Our first kiosk,
Like literally the stand.
the stand. They wanted the actual lemonade stand. So when you see Leroy's in Tiger Stadium, you will actually see a wooden lemonade stand.
The whole branding thing, sort of kitschy, fun.
Yeah.
But it sticks in people's mind.
Right, right. And
Excellent.
so that's kind of how we took the money from the sales that we would make, and we just started making it bigger, And so what happened, how we got the bottles is when COVID hit, we realized that, okay, we only had 8 stores, but they were gallon size, and the price point
Yeah.
may not have been good when COVID came. And so I found a company because we got into the incubator at LSU, and they helped tremendously. And they connected us with a company that sold bottles in bulk. And we did that, and we took those bottles to those same little 8 stores, and then other stores started calling. Why haven't we found out about Leroy's lemonade? Okay. And so we started taking bottles, the 16-ounce bottles, and it took off. So all the money, we just kept using the money that we would make and just putting it right back into the business. And eventually we had to hire some people. We had to bring, because it couldn't just be me, Dad, and Leroy,
Sure.
and our other sons. And that's just how we scaled it up. We just, we used what we had to make it more.
And to go out and get financing as you scaled up, I mean, I would imagine you needed to borrow money or get some investors or both.
We have not done any of it. We are in that process now. We were self-funded.
Okay.
We just used the money wisely, and just kept going. So we're in the process now of, trying to find some funding and maybe some investors, because we have contracts in Louisiana, we have contracts in Mississippi, Alabama, that these stores are just saying, "We gave it to y'all, just get to us when you can." And so we are in the process now of, trying to get some funding to make it bigger. Our ultimate goal, of course, is to go to Florida and be in Disney World. That's our ultimate goal,
Okay.
because we've already made a connection. And so the business has just gotten bigger. We didn't start out to do this, but it's here, and we're loving it, and it speaks volume to the special needs community, and it's amazing for us to see Leroy just thrive in this business, So
Well,
that's
and
what
the
we do.
special needs component of this is so important. I want to come back to that. But Kevin, while we were talking about financing, was it difficult for y'all to scale up? And have you had to go out and get investors, or you?
Well, so primarily at the beginning, so a lot of the investment was at the start, right? It was a very capital intensive business to establish. So, we had to build out the entire brewery and tap room, get all the equipment needed at the start. And it's big stainless steel equipment. So most of it came up front. And much of it was personally financed. And then a good chunk was SBA loan.
Okay.
So that was probably the primary source of funding. So very helpful. That program, it's complex to get through, but once you do, it helped us get construction done on the project and get rolling.
And then you opened the tap room,
Right.
like so many businesses, right before COVID.
Right.
And
Right.
so, how did that set you back?
Awful timing. Yeah, it was devastating. I think a lot of the folks in our industry were worried whether to get to the other side, right, for sure, because as it dragged on and on. So what happened to us is basically, we no longer could have people in the tap room at all. So we started canning. That was basically when we started canning. So we were really doing draft beer, sending it out, and doing draft in the tap room, and getting ready to can. We had plans to can soon, but we just accelerated that plan. And people could come, we'd roll up the garage door, and they'd come buy a 4-pack at the tap room. And we started growing distribution a little bit. But even then, you couldn't send out draft beer because all the bars were closed, and so it was a struggle to get through. Thankful for PPP and restaurant revitalization, which helped us get through.
Did it end up working out though? Okay, I mean financially because I know there was a thirst, literal and figuratively, for alcohol in those months, especially people were drinking like fish.
True.
At home.
If it weren't for that, it would have been really awful, because I think the problem is not being able to sell draft beer in our tap room, right? For our business plan, it's a high margin, in the tap room. And now we're relying only on package in the tap room and out in distribution, much lower margins, very, very more, a more challenging situation for us. But that being said, it definitely gave us the chance to get out and into more stores, and people were drinking beer. That was for sure. So we were able to definitely expand the number of stores and places we were getting into. And as things slowly opened, we could get back in bars, and things got to normal. And when things got to normal, like there was kind of almost an explosion. There's that built-in demand. Right. People get out.
Yeah, so happy, right?
Yeah. Those 3 or 4 months were, those were paradise. People just crawling on the walls in the tap room. So, but we made it through, and and now doing well. So.
Okay, well that's very excellent. So Sherilyn, let's talk about the the disabled community and how much of an impact, say, or how much of an example maybe Leroy's has set for other families, and communities that you've been able to connect with. And have y'all really been able to get the message out in Louisiana and maybe beyond that this is a model that others could replicate?
Yes, and that's what's so rewarding, because we started getting calls when people would see Leroy on our social media. We started actually getting calls from parents that said, "Wow, it's amazing how you're not ashamed of your kid, and you're doing so much, and what can we do?" And we just started talking to parents that would call and say, be patient with them. I like to say they just need a few more tools out of the toolbox than maybe a regular child. And we started doing talks like this one at schools, and we started doing talks for like boys and girls clubs, just to get the message out. And we always bring Leroy, because every time we bring Leroy into a situation where there's communication, it helps Leroy, but it also helps those kids to see, don't have to be ashamed of myself, or the parents, they don't have to be ashamed of their kids. Just work with them, because they're very smart. They actually work harder than us because they're going to finish every task that they start. The young adults that we bring in to work at Tiger Stadium, their stands are the cleanest, because they don't like anything to waste, and they wipe it up real quick. They finish everything. If you give them something to do, you got to stand back, because they're going to finish. You cannot stop them in the middle.
So you mentioned, for instance, your employees at Tiger Stadium. Are all of the young people you employed disabled to some extent? Or
no, not all of them, because we have a young man, we actually have 2, but a caregiver comes with them.
Nice. Sure.
And I always tell them they're not held to a schedule. If they say it's time to go and they're ready to go, let them go. So I have to have, the regular, adults and workers there as well, because we just want to give those special needs people a chance.
Yeah. And you've also given back money, a portion of the proceeds, as I mentioned at the introduction, to Children's Hospital here in Baton Rouge, or in New Orleans, or both?
We started out doing both hospitals, and then the one in New Orleans and here. We now focus solely on Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital now, because the new hospital, and we help them with that. And so we not only, donate portion of our proceeds, we Leroy loves to shop for them at Christmas time, and we take toys to the kids at Christmas. And on Lemonade Day, we take them tons of lemonade. Sometimes they don't have Lemonade Day nationally, but they have Our Lady of the Lake Lemonade Day. So they'll call and I'll say, I know, lemonade, right? And we'll bring them lemonade. So we focus now on the one at Our Lady of the Lake. We love them.
That's great. And Kevin, what is sort of the macro of microbrews? I know it was a big fad when you got into it.
Yeah.
Has it continued to grow, or is it petering out? What do you see as the long-term future?
It's certainly hit a peak, right? So we're kind of on a downside, but not a steep decline by any means. I think people got into craft beer, and there's a very strong population out there that loves their craft beer and sticks with it. But it definitely, like a lot of, heck, I don't want to call craft beer a fad, right? Because that's not giving enough credit. But it definitely became one of the in things to drink. And now there are so many options. You see hard seltzers out there. You see ready-to-drink cocktails in a can. So there are so many more choices now than there even were just 3 or 4 years ago.
And maybe like hard lemonades.
Yeah,
So maybe we
absolutely,
could get
hard
you
lemonades.
two together and we could have some sort of rally cap lemonade with Leroy.
Lip smack him there.
That's right.
Indeed. Well, Kevin Whalen and Sherilyn Hayward, it's so refreshing to meet local entrepreneurs who are being high quality ingredients and a commitment to excellence to our community while also helping disabled young people. You both have such great stories. Thank you so much for taking time to join me today on Out to Lunch.
Thank you.
Yes,
so
thanks for
much.
having me, Steph.
My guests today on Out to Lunch have been Sherilyn Hayward of Leroy's Lip Smackin' Lemonade and Kevin Whalen of Rally Cat Brewing. We had to edit this show to fit into the time slot here on WRKF. You can hear our unedited version and learn more about Leroy's Lip Smackin' Lemonade and Rally Cat Brewing by going to the Out to Lunch Baton Rouge podcast. You can find and subscribe to the Out to Lunch Baton Rouge podcast anywhere you get podcasts and on our website, it's batonrouge.la. If you want to know what we all look like, you can find photos from this show on its batonrouge.la and on our Out to Lunch Baton Rouge social media. Photos are taken by Eric Otts. You can find more of Eric's photos on Instagram at Acro, that's ACREAUX. Out to Lunch is a production of INO Broadcasting for its batonrouge.la and WRKF 89.3 FM. The producer of our show is Grant Morris. Our technical producer is Eric Merle. Today's show was engineered by J.T. O'Neill. Our associate producer is Peter Raschuti, and our Baton Rouge business consultants are Charlie D'Agostino and Ann Edelman. I'm Stephanie Riegel. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to meeting you around the table at Mansur's again next week for more business Baton Rouge style on Out to Lunch.
Out to Lunch Baton Rouge is recorded live over lunch at Mansur's on the Boulevard in Baton Rouge. Mansur's is open for lunch daily 11 to 2, for dinner nightly, and for brunch on Saturdays and Sundays. Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by the East Baton Rouge Parish School System, inspiring humanity through transformational learning in the classroom and community. Initiatives like Pathways to Bright Futures allow students to graduate high school with an associate degree or an industry-based credential, along with their high school diploma. More information at ebrschools.org. Mitchell Foreman wrote and performs all the music on Out to Lunch. You can hear Mitchell's music anywhere great jazz is sold or streamed, and at mitchellforeman.com. If you'd like to be part of Out to Lunch, to learn how your business or organization can become an Out to Lunch program partner, email info@inobroadcasting.com.